Hi, Uttori Zoku. This is Imari from the Always Uttori blog. Today, we're celebrating Christmas in July. Christmas is just around the corner, so for those who like to plan ahead, there is no better time than now to start thinking about Christmas 2023. Today, I'll be sharing a quick wreath to get you started with your holiday decor, as well as color stories to get you inspired for the holidays. I fell in love with this cute teddy bear wreath that I found on Pinterest. So, when I came across this adorable vintage bear on our recent thrift trip, I knew it would make the perfect Christmas in July project. According to the pin, the wreath was created by folk artist Sue Corlett. I will include the link to her website in the description box below. To start, I'm washing the bear I thrifted with warm soapy water to sanitize it. It's made with mohair and can only be spot cleaned, so washing with mild soap and water was the recommendation. As it turns out, the bear was made by Knickerbocker, the company that mass-produced the teddy bear that was inspired by President Teddy Roosevelt in the 1920s. The company is no longer in business, but from my research, I think this bear, called Chester, is from the 80s or 90s. Because there might be some added value as a collectible, I made sure I didn't do anything permanent to the bear. Because the bear is really the centerpiece of the wreath, the style you choose will inspire other components of the wreath. So, whether you thrift a bear like I did, use one you already have, or find something new, let it guide your wreath. Because Chester is quite rustic and the original inspiration picture is also quite rustic, I will stick with that old world charm theme for the rest of the wreath. Because it's Christmas in July, if you're lucky enough to live in an area that has pine trees, it's a great time to forage pine cones. I got mine from my yard, but if you are foraging from another area, make sure it's allowed and only take what you need. If using fresh pine cones, you need to cure them by baking them in an oven between 200 and 275 degrees Fahrenheit for anywhere between 20 to 45 minutes depending on the size of the pine cone. This kills off any bugs, mildew, and melts the sap that's hiding in there. Just make sure your baking sheet is lined with foil. For this project, I'm also using fresh cuttings from some overgrown evergreen shrubs in my yard. Feel free to use whatever you have on hand, be it fake garlands, fresh cuttings, or kits you can find at Costco or Trader Joe's in the coming months. To make the wreath, I'm going to cut off branches from my cuttings to form smaller stems and bunch them together in groups of 3 or 4, depending on how full the bunch is looking. I use floral wire to attach the stems together and then place them around the wreath form, which I got from Dollar Tree, so that I can get a feel for how many bunches I need to make. If you watched the spring tulip wreath I did a few months ago, then this will look familiar. I'm also using my wire cutting tool to cut the branches as well as the wire. Once we finish the wreath, we're going to share 4 color stories that Always Uttori will be focusing on for Christmas 2023, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, did you know that last year 3 of the biggest aesthetics for Christmas were Candyland, Grinchmas, and Natural World or Woodland? If any of you participated in these themes last year, let me know in the comments below. This year, many of the themes are the same, but there are some new additions such as Scandinavian, mixed metals, vintage, retro, and Christmas whimsy. I think this teddy bear Christmas wreath fits in perfectly with many of the themes for Christmas 2023. The wreath has a bit of tradition, a bit of whimsy, it also has a vintage vibe, and includes natural world elements. I'm about done making enough bunches to cover the wreath form. I will add in more bunches later to fill in gaps once I get all of the bunches attached to the wreath form. To attach the bunches to the wreath form, I'm using floral wire. I'm wrapping the floral wire around the bunch and then using the extra to securely attach it to the wreath form. I'm making sure to layer each bunch on top of the other so that it has a layered effect and covers up any holes. For this wreath, I've decided to arrange the branches laying away from each other on either side until they meet at the bottom of the wreath. You can choose to arrange your wreath with the branches going in the same direction or in opposite directions as I have done in this wreath. It's really up to you and your aesthetic choice. So here are some close-ups so you can better see how I'm attaching the branches to the wreath form. I'm just twisting the floral wire around the branch and the wreath form until it's secure. Speaking of aesthetic choices, did you know that Amazon has 19 styles listed for their Christmas categories? Some of these include Art Deco, Contemporary, Cottage, Rustic, Traditional, Country, Chinese, and English, to name a few. While we have yet to share our 2023 Christmas color stories, I wanted to briefly talk about aesthetic styles and color. When you're crafting your Christmas experience, it's important to pick an aesthetic or style that resonates with you and fits into your decor. While most colors can blend into a preferred style, some aesthetics come with colors that are too important to be ignored. Many times, the color is foundational to the aesthetic. For example, the soft blues and grays of a coastal aesthetic, or white for modern farmhouse. Color is important, but you can play with the saturation of a color to get it to fit into an aesthetic that you love. At the end of the video, we will share the colors that resonate with us most for Christmas 2023. But because aesthetic is important, I've tried to place our color stories into a complementary aesthetic to help guide you on great style and color pairings. So I've finished attaching my branches and I think I've got a good first layer. I will add more branches to further fill out the wreath after I secure our bear, Chester, to the wreath. Chester has joints, so I wrapped floral wire around his back leg joint and then attached the wire to the wreath form. If your bear doesn't have joints, try to put the wire as far back on the leg as possible and fluff the fur around it to help hide the wire. I repeated the same process at the arm joint and attached Chester's arm to the wreath form. And now I'm just testing to see how secure he is. Now I'm making more branch bundles so I can further fill in the wreath form. I ran out of my green floral wire, so I'm using copper. I find it really helpful to hang the wreath up so I can see how the branches are hanging and what spots might need to be filled in. In addition to filling in holes, I'm also adding more branches to the bottom center of the wreath. I wanted to create a V shape hanging down from the center. After I identified what spots need to be filled in, I moved the wreath back to the table and then attached the branches with wire to the wreath form. Now comes the fun part where you get to play around and see what else you want to add to the wreath. This is where the style of bear that you're using really comes into play. I'm trying out several different things and moving them around until I'm satisfied with the overall layout. This is a great way to make sure you like how things are before you glue everything down. One of the features of the wreath I was inspired by was a wooden sign that said Merry Christmas. If you want to skip the step of making your own sign, you can probably find a pre-made one at a place like Dollar Tree or Michael's. However, I happen to have this wooden blank left over from Dollar Tree last year. It was a project that didn't quite work out, so now I'm repurposing it for this project. So I cut off the strings that were attached and now I'm painting it with red acrylic paint that I also got from Dollar Tree. Because I'm going for a rustic look, I'm not worried about coverage. I'm just lightly swiping it and leaving some spots kind of wispy. And to further the rustic effect, I'm adding a few streaks of brown acrylic paint, also from Dollar Tree. So now I'm going to cut out the letters on my Cricut. I'm using this vinyl paper that I got from Dollar Tree. If you don't have a Cricut to cut out the letters for you, you could freehand it or use a stencil. The letters were so dark, at first I wasn't sure it actually cut anything, but I eventually found it. I think this might have looked better in a white color, but I didn't have any white vinyl on hand, so I had to go with this sparkly black vinyl. I think it still looked alright though. So now I'm just weeding the letters, and you guys, this took me like 20 minutes to do. It was really hard to get that paper off. So now I'm using transfer tape to move the letters from the paper to the sign. Before cutting out the letters, I measured the size of the sign and made sure that the letters would fit within. And just make sure you measure it again before you place it onto the sign, so that it's center. And I do think that my letters could have maybe been a little bit bigger, but I think it still turned out all right. I kept the string that I cut off at the beginning and decided to tie it in one of the holes as a little accent to the sign. So now it's time to start gluing things down. I removed the white base from this bottle brush tree and then glued it down with a hot glue gun. I kept the wood base on the other bottle brush tree because I thought that it added to the rustic look. I'm not 100% sure where I got these, but I know you can find similar things at Dollar Tree. So now I'm using my copper wire to help secure the sign to the wreath, and instead of wrapping it around the wreath, I looped it back around the front and turned it into a little bow. And now I'm adding hot glue to make it extra secure. So if you don't want to go through the trouble of making your own sign, these are some examples of the types of signs you can find at Dollar Tree. And you could use something like this instead. I picked these up last year, and I ended up adding that Farm Fresh sign to the wreath as well. When I was making my bunches, I saved out larger sticks to use on the wreath. Here I'm gluing one to the bottom of the sign, and I also added one to the right of the sign. So now I'm gluing everything down, and I'm adding some extra branches underneath the bear because that area was a little bit sparse. And instead of attaching it with wire, I'm just using hot glue. I'm also using hot glue to attach the pine cones to the bottom part of the wreath. Here I'm using some wire to attach the tree to the bear's arm. Even though the tree is glued to the wreath, when I hung the wreath up, the tree tipped to the side, so I'm just doing this so that the tree will stand upright when the wreath is hanging. And here is our finished Christmas in July teddy bear wreath. But wait, we're not done yet. We still have to talk about the Christmas color stories, but before we do that, I wanted to briefly talk about the total cost of this wreath. I think it would be easy to make a similar wreath for around $30 if you had to buy everything. Pine bows might be the most expensive part of the wreath, but around the holidays, they are readily available and can cost between $9, like I saw at my local grocery store last year, or $19.90 at Costco, depending on how much you need. Since I used things from my yard, all of that was free, and the rest of my cost included the bear I thrifted for $6.99, $6.25 at Dollar Tree for the wreath form, 2 signs, and bottle brush trees, and I'll calculate about 52 cents for the amount of floral wire I used, and 50 cents for the paint and vinyl I used, for a total cost of $14.26. Okay, so now it's finally time to talk about the color stories Always Uttori will be highlighting for Christmas 2023. If you know the meaning of the word Uttori, you know that it's a Japanese word that conveys the feeling of enchantment. This year, I've become enchanted by 4 new color stories for the upcoming holiday season. Keep in mind that the popularity of a color theme may vary based on region, but if you connect your color story to a style that you love, that's where the real enchantment lies. Our color inspiration is inspired by trends seen in fashion, interiors, and at market, which is where wholesalers go to shop for items to put in their shops. Since I am not a wholesaler, the information I'm sharing with you comes from market research and from content by YouTubers Ken Woven, David Christopher, and Ramon at Home. They helped me get an insider's take on the trends of Christmas past, as well as Christmas trends for 2023. Check the link in the description below to access their videos. Okay, you've waited long enough. Let's talk about our 4 Christmas 2023 color stories. The first color story on our enchantment list is the pairing of ruby and rust. Inspired by traditional Christmas colors and building upon our velvet and amber color story from last year, Ruby and Rust combines traditional holiday red with the rising interiors trend of neutrals and earthy tones. The trend pairs colors like reds, browns, and oranges, as well as lighter coppers and tans. The Always Uttori color story of Ruby and Rust pairs opulent gemstone decor with warm rustic metallics. Set the mood. You can choose to accent Ruby and Rust with black for a moody and dark look, white for a fresh and bright look, or a mix of metallics for a more traditional look. In terms of style, we've paired Ruby and Rust with a traditional aesthetic. We're not reinventing the wheel, we're sticking to time-tested traditions and classic styling. If you're ready to get a jumpstart on this colorway, you can check out our Velvet and Amber DIY video from last year, which included DIYs in rust and amber colors. The next color story on our enchantment list is French Lavender and Seafoam. Bored of the same old red and green Christmas year after year? Try French Lavender and Seafoam. This color story is inspired by the south of France, where lavender fields grow in Provence and the sea laps at warm sand. Non-traditional and whimsical colors have been a growing trend in the Christmas space, and this year shades of lavender and magenta are the fresh take on red. For this Christmas season, we've paired lavender with another up-and-coming non-traditional color, wintry mint or seafoam green. This color has been popping up more frequently in Christmas decor, especially last year with ocean and crustacean-themed holiday items as part of the mermaid core trend that is popular in both fashion and interior decor. Set the mood. Accent this color story with rustic grays and browns. Weathered wood and metallic textures with low shine add to the old world feeling of this color story. To style this colorway, we're pairing lavender and seafoam with a French provincial aesthetic, or European country rustic style. As lavender is grown in the south of France, we thought the colors went perfectly with the aesthetic of the region it's grown. If you want to find more inspirations for any of the color stories we're sharing, check out our holiday Pinterest board, which I will link in the description box below. Our next color story is Smoked Gray and Iced Vanilla. Mysterious and elegant, smoked gray and iced vanilla brings a sense of winter's chill while keeping it sophisticated. As interior trends turn to neutral and earthy tones, smoky grays and dark metallics like pewter have been gaining popularity in the Christmas space. Perhaps the color hits upon brutalist design style, an interior trend for 2023 that emphasizes simple and geometric shapes rough and unfinished textures, and monochromatic colors. While brutalist style doesn't sound Christmassy, when paired with a soft neutral like vanilla, smoked gray becomes inviting rather than stark. Always Uttori is also including the rising trend of tinsel and iced texture treatments, a retro tradition that is making a comeback, in this color story to add some holiday pizzazz to this elegant colorway. Set the mood. Brighten up this dark and moody colorway by adding white color accents. To create a warmer feeling, go for deeper vanillas and browns. If you want to play up the moodiness, pair this colorway with blacks and darker grays. Also, don't forget about texture. Industrial and raw finishings play to the brutalist design elements, while iced and shiny finishes bring in the holiday vibes. Smoked gray and iced vanilla style aesthetic is moody and modern, so it fits well into contemporary styling. Minimal and monochromatic, we're keeping this Christmas style refined. Our fourth color story on our enchantment list is Funfetti. If you are looking for fun, whimsy, and cozy hygge spirit all wrapped in one, then look no further than Funfetti Christmas. Instead of a specific color, Funfetti highlights a bright rainbow of colors in pinks, blues, yellows, oranges, and greens, usually in pastel shades. This colorway is super non-traditional, but brings a sense of freshness to the Christmas space. Funfetti encompasses societal trends like dopamine dressing, craftcore, maximalism, and hygge, tapping into the larger need for fun, freedom, and comfort after the confinement of the past few years. This colorway is a bit of a rising star, so it may be difficult to find holiday decor that fits into this colorway at retail stores this year. However, I believe this trend will only grow in popularity in the coming years. Set the mood. Funfetti is all about fun and bright colors. White is a must to keep the many colors from going too crazy while also keeping the feeling bright. You can also add metallics in the form of gold to add some shine and holiday sophistication. This colorway is also all about textures. Confetti, glitter, pom-poms, knits, and wool all add to the cozy and comforting vibes. Funfetti would pair well with either a bohemian or Scandinavian style. Funfetti pulls from the craftcore aesthetic, which lends itself well to cozy Scandinavian concepts like hygge, or free-spirited and eclectic bohemian styles. We will be sharing DIYs, food, gifts, and more, all themed around these color stories in the coming months. So if you found inspiration in any of these color stories, consider subscribing. Until next time, this is Imari from Always Uttori, reminding you that enchantment awaits and life is about finding it. Thank you so much for watching.